everybody, I'm Tom Vassell.
I'm Camilla Cleghorn.
I'm Joey Evans.
And this is not a gift box. This is I don't know.
It's also not a prototype.
No.
If you tilt this box, besides all the dirt, don't make a white box, folks.
Oof.
Yeah, that's
You can
rough.
see a little bit of a logo here. When we first got this, I thought it was White Kingdom Death Monster.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
really looks like that.
It does.
Especially when you open up, you're like, giant monsters, a gazillion cards. Well, spoiler alert, there's definitely going to be comparisons to Kingdom Death Monster being made about this game.
There has to be.
Mm-hmm.
But I wasn't like Jones to play it. You got me excited about playing it. You were excited about this game.
I was really excited. I mean, mainly the miniatures are great. I mean, they
Yep.
look great. I mean, you get in there and you're like, as much as I say I'm done with the campaign games. When you get something like this and you're like, oh, I want to see the story this tells.
Well, this one, I think the more you look at it, the more interested you get. You know, the minis drew me in, and then I
Right.
started seeing the art, and then I read the lore, and it's like, oh, yes, 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 you know, and so it definitely was a growing interest the more I looked at it.
Yeah.
This game takes place in Greece, in Greek mythology, where all the gods are dead. The things that killed the gods are these humongous, gigantic beasts. You are ordinary people, the Argonauts, I guess not that ordinary, heroes. You wake up on a ship, which is very similar to, it's a gigantic city ship, I mean, humongous ship, and you jump into sort of like some goo, and you're controlling the Titans, the things that fought the gods.
Yeah.
So you then use these Titans as avatars, similar to, well, the movie Avatar, or even like similar to Pacific Rim.
That's what I was thinking.
Oh,
that
and
was my
maybe
mind
more
went.
Pacific Rim.
Matrix and Pacific Rim.
So if the Titan gets killed, you don't die. You just get another Titan out.
Right.
So you start off this game, you open up and you're being attacked and you fight. And then you go through more. I'm going to show you a little bit of how the game works, but realize that there's so much. Here we go.
It's a lot.
There is an 80-page rulebook that comes with the game, but the game comes with a tutorial that walks you through the beginning of a full round of the game. That tutorial then leads you into what is Cycle 1. The game is split into, well, at least the game I have, I know there's more than these, but there are 3 chapters. And each chapter is made up of a lot of turns. This is a sheet of paper that you photocopy out of the back of the book. By the way, I felt like this was kind of, for goodness sake, they could have put a couple of these sheets in the game instead of making me print them off the internet or photocopy them. But you'll notice here that this is a voyage timeline. And this is kind of the basis. You have a ship, which is going to be 2 papers. This one keeps track of your hull, your crew, different things that you're carrying, god forms and summons and titans and adventure tracks and all sorts of things. And this one here, the voyage timeline, this is really the focus of the game because you're going to go through, and it even has the tutorial missions listed on it. And then it will tell you different things will happen. These symbols all mean something. And then there's swords, which means that there's going to be a battle happening in those spots. And a battle is a big chunk of the game. This book itself will add some rules to the game, and they'll go over some things. But other than that, this book is full of stories where you'll be reading passages, it will be giving you choices, and when you go on different adventures, you're going to be finding things in this book. At the back of the book, they have the different battles that you'll be fighting, and you'll set them up. But there is tons of text here of stories that you'll be going through. Players are on a gigantic ship that's the size of a city, and as the game goes by, you're actually exploring inside this ship. But you're going to be moving on a board, and so you'll go in different directions. So let's say I go south here. That says card 37. I would find card 37 and I place it here and it makes a map. And so as the game goes by, you're going to find different cards. We'll be making this map, and there's like cities and all sorts of things that you'll find. As you move on the map, different symbols will happen. There's a little deck of cards that you will be drawing from, exploration cards, and it will tell you something that you found. And you're just going to go around and you can eventually trade with different people. Now the map itself, while it looks really cool, you don't need to like look at it for secret symbols, at least as far as I know so far on it. But it does kind of give you an idea where things are. And it's possible that in this game, there will be a bad guy who's chasing you on the map. And so this guy will show up and they will sometimes be moving and coming after you, and you want to be careful because if they catch up to you, then you'll have to fight them, in which case they're not that size, but they are this size. You also will be learning different technologies, and so there will be different technology cards that you will get that will allow you to do different things, and those technologies will lead to other technologies. And in fact, the game comes, this is a huge deck of technology cards that you can have, and these technology cards are only the ones for this first chapter. These cards are going to let you build a variety of weapons and items and things that you can use in battles. Battles are a good chunk of the game. They're all going to take place on the same board, although there's going to be a variety of terrain pieces that you can stick on the board to, change things up. When you play this game, this is who you will be. Well, not maybe this particular person, but you'll pick a character, and that character will give you a little bit of a backstory. And in fact, you will have a sheet for your character, which will keep track of your abilities, your skills. These are Nemos, which, man, I can't get everything in this game, but like things that you will learn as the game goes by. But when you play on the board, you are actually not playing that character. You are sort of using the ship connected to a Titan. So you'll play maybe this Titan, a Dreamwalker Solid, and there's all sorts of Titans in the game. And this Titan has a special ability, some dice, some things here. And if this Titan dies, which it will at some point, you just get another Titan and use that Titan. Although if you run out of Titans, the game will end. When you fight in a battle, each Titan is going to keep track of their rage. Rage will be gained from various things, mostly from attacking. And as your rage goes up, you're going to be able to give the next person after you tokens that they can use in battle, which will help them get better. And fate is something you can spend to get more re-rolls over the course of the game. And danger is kind of akin to hit points. As you get more danger, as this big enemy, in this case it's the Hecaton here, with a bunch of hands attacking you, you'll have to draw from a various different drama piles, and those cards could just kill you, like this one here, just says disemboweled, and you die. And sometimes they're actually good things, like this one here just says your Maze Touch. You get the Maze Touch affliction. What does that do? Well, play the game to find out. And sometimes they're even good things, like for some reason you have a Surge. But the game is going to be using an AI system to run this bad guy, and you, always running 4 Titans, no matter how many players there are going to fight against it. Each monster that you fight against is going to come with a certain level, and they can go up. Every time you fight them, they're going to go up in a level. But they're going to be using a couple decks. So there's 2 decks that they come with. They come with an AI deck, and then they also come with a body part deck. Now, when it's the monster's turn, they're going to flip over the top AI card, cold open this one is, and they're going to follow through on it. It's going to say how they move, who they'll hit. Players are going to have to roll dice and try to defend against them. Here, for example, whoever they hit is going to have to roll 4 dice and roll 6 or higher to defend against them, or they're going to take danger. And then it's going to push them around the board. Not very fun. When you hit the monster, you're going to be rolling dice. And usually, you're going to be rolling 10-sided dice. You always roll the white one, and you'll possibly roll other dice. You have tokens that can increase these. You can spend fate to re-roll these dice. But you're trying to reach a certain number, which on the Hecaton is a 7 or higher. At least it is on the lower levels. And if you hit the monster, you're trying to do damage to it. Now, if you roll this white die, because if you roll this critical symbol on the white die, you have a chance to do a critical hit, which is the coolest thing of all. But when you hit the monster, you'll then flip over a body part. In this case, it's 1 of 100 fists here. It shows you the amount of damage that you have to roll, and you're going to roll damage dice equal to each hit that you've done. For each damage symbol, if you get enough of them, you take it out. There are also other symbols on here that can be changed to damage symbols with different tokens. If you take it out, you've hit 1 body part, and you need to destroy a lot of body parts. At the beginning, it's 10. 1 body part. But here's the thing. When you take that body part out, you're then going to take a level 2 body part and shuffle it into the deck of body part 1. You're also going to add an AI 2 card into the AI deck. And if you take out a body part level 2, same thing, except now you're adding in a body part level 3 and an AI level 3. So the more you hit the monster, the stronger the monster is going to get. However, the more rage you have, the stronger you get, and you'll be able to have more orange dice. You'll be able to give more tokens to the next person. There's two main kinds of tokens at the beginning of the game that let you add to your rolls and or change these little triangles on here to wounds. Eventually, the Titan's going to kill you, or you escape, or sometimes you can escape, or you will take down the Titan. Once you take down the Titan, you will take its body parts and use those as materials in the future, and then you go back onto the voyage phase. Now, I just told you 80 pages worth of rules. That doesn't seem like a lot, but there is so much more than that. There are conditions that players can get. Here, for example, is paralyzed. Like I said, there's cool weapons and armors that you can upgrade. You're going to be going through the game, running into different factions and trying to find unique and weird weapons. There are, like I said, these Nemos cards that as you get them, you're going to get special abilities that are going to go up. Like, for example, a dream you hold. This is one that I'm playing with, and as this goes up, I'm going to get more and more special abilities that I can fight with other people, but I get that by going out through this storybook. This storybook has a very condensed kind of storyline in it. What I mean is there's a major storyline in the course of the game, this main story here, and it will take you to different numbered paragraphs. But sometimes when you just come across an adventure hub is what it's called, you'll roll a die for each of your different stories. So your first story, your second story, third story, fourth story. You'll go to that section. So let's say, for example, I rolled Man of Purpose. I'll go here, and then the next several times I do adventures, they come in this book, and they're going to go back and forth. So it's a cohesive adventure that also takes place in the main adventure. There's also side adventures, rest and relaxation adventures, and eventually you're going to win or lose. There's a big main boss that you have to beat story 1. And other than that, there's actually, as far as I can tell, in story 1, there's only 4 different bosses. This is that one that follows you, the one Hecaton, this one, and another one. And if all your Titans die, you lose all the equipment off your ship, you lose, and I guess there's other ways to lose too. But it's going to take many turns. You see that there's 80 turns, and it's about, I would say, 3 or 4 hours to get through 6 turns or so of the game. Because every 6 turn there's an enemy fight. Enemy fights can take an hour to an hour and a half, and then the storytelling can take another hour, an hour and a half. So maybe 3 turns for every 6. It depends. But that's kind of the game. I can't really show you much more than that, folks, without spoiling stuff. There are secret decks. There are good things that happen and bad things that happen. You're keeping track. There's an overall card in the game that you're putting good points on and bad points on. There's so much more, but hopefully that gives you an idea of how the game plays. Spoiler alert, we haven't finished this.
Right.
Because that's not possible. Well, I guess it will. I have seen some people finish it.
You can finish it. No, it's at that point, it is the game you're playing. You know, I mean, there are people that have finished Gloomhaven. You know, so there are people that can and will finish this, but it is definitely a dedicated game group, playing regularly so you don't lose the rule set, coming back to it, and seeking to finish the end of the game. Lifestyle
game. These are the games that my wife puts away and says, for our retirement, which we'll never, ever do in retirement. But, yeah, it would take forever to get to the end.
So they estimate 200 hours to play through the 3 chapters that come in this box. There is a smaller box, which I've not seen, and there are 2 more chapters, so there would be 5 chapters total. I'm assuming that would be 320 hours or whatever. On that end, I got to give them props. Yeah. I feel like you're getting your money's worth when you buy this.
Absolutely.
Yep, I agree.
There is so much in here, but the game is 2 halves easily. Mm-hmm. There's 1 half, I mean, there's like 80 turns and only 1 turn is combat, but that combat is so involved and everything else you do pushes towards that combat. That combat's half the game. Now the combat this is the closest that it is to Kingdom Death Monster, because Kingdom Death Monster also has, you fight giant monsters collect body parts.
On a grid.
Right, on a grid.
Yeah.
They have an AI deck, and you fight them. That's kind of where it ends, though, because this game has a lot of things. So let's talk about the combat.
Okay.
Because it is a good chunk of the game. We've done combat, I don't know, like 6 times now?
Something like that. And I want to say, I mean, just to give a little perspective here, I mean, you do combat, and then you'll have 7 or 8 turns, and then another combat. So it's not one combat, one village, one combat, one village.
No, but it essentially is, in a sense.
Because the combat takes as long as those 6 or 7 turns, outside the story.
It does. And those little turns, you can kind of get stuff to help you with the combat later, kind of upgrade your defenses and things and stuff. That's the idea of it, at least.
If I ever set this up at my house and play it, I'm going to have 2 tables.
Yeah.
A combat table and the map table.
Oh, yeah, because you do have to rebuild the map every time.
We built the map on top of the combat board, and even, I don't know. I just feel like that would be a cool thing to do.
Yeah.
But the combat, there's one thing I think is really fascinating about the combat, and that's the escalation system. The more you fight, the more rage you get, the more tokens you're giving other people. It has a very strong teamwork vibe. I'm going to give you these tokens. I'm going to hit the monster so it goes this direction so that you can then hit the monster. And as the game progresses, the more weapons and items and things allow you to teamwork even more.
Right.
But the monster's also getting stronger. There's a lot of things about combat. I don't think combat's boring.
No, it's not. I do think it does keep you on your toes as well, where you're cycling in those harder cards as well. So you're getting stronger, you're getting more rage, you're tempting fate, maybe for re-rolls and trying to strategically do that. Placing up your teammates, that has that good puzzle to it, but also the escalation. You're going up, but so are they. And I think that does have both of those escalations brings good tension to the combat. I
think also the combat, you feel like, a lot of these you go in, you want to feel like, I'm a hero. This one, you feel like you're losing the entire time. You get thrown around. I mean, you will go up for a hit, you'll miss, and you'll get thrown 6 squares.
Yeah.
It's crazy. You're like, it's all just trying to lose the least in every combat.
Although I do like the fact that the main monster you fight for a while is the Hecaton or whatever.
Something like that.
Made of arms.
Yeah.
I'm just amused because every part of its body is an arm.
Oh,
and I'm beating on a little runt arm.
The runt. Oh, and then that's the thing. The tongue-in-cheek little things when the cards flip over and there's like this, you're hitting this little hand, little baby hand.
Or knuckle teeth.
Yes.
Yeah.
That sort of thing is fun.
The first time.
Although the game itself is not a particularly humorous game. There's like tiny bits of humor, but not much at all.
No.
That combat, though, one thing I don't like about combat is I feel like the 10-sided dice are crazy lucky.
Yes.
Crazy lucky.
Yes.
Sometimes you're like, oh, amazing, and it feels great. The critical hit happens 1 out of 10 times. When it happens, and then you wound a character, which I think that system's good. Hit and then wound.
Yes.
I like that system. But that hitting, sometimes you just roll terrible. And yeah, you can re-roll, but it's so lucky, and tokens that add 1
Right.
Don't mitigate the luck of that much.
That's what I was going to say. Is it's lucky with also low mitigation. It gives you just enough mitigation to feel like, okay, you're next. What do you want? Do you want the break or the opening token? Do you want the +1 or the reroll?
Whatever token you give will be the wrong one.
It's definitely going to be the wrong one. Which one do you want? So you're trying to coordinate, and it makes you feel like you have control, but then you realize it's just never quite enough. A 10-sided die, I really would have liked it better had it had maybe a 6-sided die. Something like that, bring it down a little bit, give you better odds, I guess. But I feel like hitting 7 and up on a 10-sided, you might, okay, I'm going to give you all the opening tokens, so you can do the +1s on it, and that's going to be the time you roll a 7, 8, 8, 9. And it's like, and that happens significantly.
Sometimes, too. And it's like, okay, we'll just go ahead and do the motions on this. You going to re-roll? No.
Right, and that's sometimes I find that to be a little, there is a few times where you hit the monster, then you turn over the body part, you're like, oh, I can't wound it.
Right.
Okay, I guess I'll roll the dice anyway.
Yeah.
Or on the flip side of that, you decide, you know what, we're going to beef up and really do great. Then you flip over the card and you have to do 2.
Right.
And you've wasted all that on that.
So I did feel, I do like, or I do wish, I should say, that you had, maybe you could see the whole body and be like, all right, I can maybe get this, so I'm going to push it and go for this body part because I can reach it. You know, I think the surprise of turning it over and not knowing what you're hitting and what you're going for and what you need, you're going into it blindly, as well as there's very little mitigation for it.
Yeah.
You know,
Yep,
so
I
that
agree.
just increases that swing of the bat.
And what about the
battle.
pushing off the edge? Just always being worried about that edge.
Yeah, that's it.
We've lost so many Titans.
Well, also we found out that we couldn't be pushed off the edge in the first one, which...
Oh yeah, we were playing harder.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know, like we played the level 2 rules from the beginning.
Now, people who play the game a lot, I know they're going to say this, and I know it's also true. There's a zillion weapons and armor and special abilities, and you get new Titans that have all kind. Combat's going to get so much fascinating as it goes by, but at the beginning, it essentially is often run up and punch.
Right.
Run up, punch, or swing your whatever weapon you get. You know, there's not a lot of nuance. I know that will grow, but realize you could be playing the game 20 hours before you start seeing a lot of that tactics.
Right.
And that's something to say. It's silly to say, but you need to hook me in the first 10 hours.
Right.
It's really to say
That's-
that. It's like, oh, it's going to get better. I'm like, whoa, wait a second.
Right.
I'm 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 hours in. Win.
Right.
You know?
So let's talk about the story now. So,
Wait, can we mention the fact that the monsters, you play, fighting the same monsters over and over and over, that right there kind of loses luster after a while, for me. And I know that's what Kingdom Death does too. But
you're
I do,
right. They level up for sure. They're
They
trying to
do.
add
They
something
get
new to them.
harder.
Yeah, they get harder.
Yeah. As you get stronger, they get harder. But it's just, I don't know, I'd like more variety and things like that. But that's.
But
that's
is the
here and there.
contrast of that, I mean, this is already a gigantic box.
That's the thing.
Is it another box this size just to have a unique monster that you can use once?
Well, I
Right.
would argue I could fight a Hecaton and just have a different card. He does different things.
Okay, all right, so
You
that
just
would be,
say
I guess
minis.
that would be
Yeah.
enough for you. It was just
Yeah.
another, a different card. You wouldn't need a different monster per se.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
So story-wise,
Right.
So, last year I reviewed a game called My Father's Work, which is a fantastic game, and I argued that the guy who wrote it decided to write the next great American novel. There's a
Right.
ton of text.
Yeah.
My Father's Work has no text at all compared to this game.
Right.
This is volumes of stuff here.
Yeah.
Now, I think the writing is top notch, and the story is fascinating. My favorite parts are when they talk about you found a new room on the ship, and they're like, oh, that's cool. They're like, or you come across a Titan wandering in, and you meet these different people, and it has cohesive storytelling, which is cool, but definitely, as I was reading the story, I was like, I feel like I don't want people to get bored, not at
Yeah.
the story, but they're listening to me read it, which is not the same as
And after 8 hours of that, yeah. Yeah, I mean, no, that's not
8
funny
hours
to
of
you,
Tom's
like-
voice.
Oh, yeah.
No, I do like the cohesion of it, and I do think it's impressive that it maintains that cohesion and your decisions come back to help or haunt you, and your alliances grow, and we, I really like all of that it's doing. Just the interactive nature of the story, and it's impressive that it's doing it without an app. For one that's tracked via a book and a sheet of paper, marking off stats and tracking alliances, I think it's really impressive what it does. But it gets very tedious at the same time. In order to achieve that level of impressiveness where it works really well and those do matter, there's a lot of overhead with it.
I don't find that part tedious, but also I'm the one reading.
And that's fair, yeah.
That's my favorite part of this game. There's so much cool story, and I know that even after playing 200 hours, you're not going to see all of it.
No,
you'll see the
it's-
main points, but you'll miss side quests and stuff. That to me
Yeah.
is mind-blowing, and also it's not bad writing. It could have easily been cheesy. It doesn't feel cheesy. I'm intrigued to see what's next.
I am too. I like the story. I think it gets too wordy at times. And I think too many sub-characters and all this. I'm like, come on, I'm not reading Tolkien.
Yeah.
I'm like, but then you compare it, I compare it like to Oathsworn. Oathsworn is really to the point when it reads its passages. It's just like boom,
That's
boom.
true, it is.
It's
Oathsworn is a better...
it flows.
Story game.
I think
it flows so much better.
the one I was thinking of is like Sleeping Gods for comparison, because I think that one does have some longer passages as well. But what it does well is it has little short passages, but then it knows when you're coming into these big epic moments, that's when it expands. So it has a lot of variability in that length to keep it quick, keep you engaged, keep you snappy. I feel like you get a story, whereas this one is always that long passage.
And that's a good point. It lets you know when you go into the epic thing, and it's like, instead of this one, you meet a guy on the beach, and he mentions something, and all of a sudden you're fighting a monster, and you're like, wait, what? It's just like, but it's good because you are ready. By the time those boss battles come up, you're ready for a change.
Yeah.
But as you find a lot of the traveling there's a lot of like bookkeeping and moving around and all that.
Well, that's what I was saying.
hard.
I mean, and it was like, for us that were playing was kind of like, oh, okay, and just watching Tom kind of bookkeep. And you said you enjoy it because you're doing it and you're involved.
Right.
The
There's
rest
a lot
us
of
are
bookkeeping
like,
for sure. We did look at the app. Using the app would help a
I
little.
really liked the app a lot.
The app is cool.
Yes.
So I have mixed feelings on it. The map is really neat. Oh, there's this big map. However, the map there's a lot of window dressing there. You're like, oh, wow, this big map, or we're looking for this city. And then a card will say, well, the city is the one that's closest to you. Okay, that works game-wise. We're going to that city.
Yeah.
But that's not as cool as I'm like, we found it. It was in the lower left corner. And when you turn over a card, there's a few symbols of things that happen, and maybe this will, maybe farther in the story that will happen, but I never turn over a tile. I was like, wow. I'm more like, well, that's neat. It fits in with the map. Now let's go to the books and look at stuff.
Yeah.
That's a good, there's no like wow moment. You're like, oh, there's a, what is that? And then you go and look at the icons, try to figure out what it is.
The wow comes from the story.
Yes,
exactly. You get to the wow, but it's not that reveal.
The other part of bookkeeping, that's a lot, and this part, in our games, we fast forwarded. I looked at it a lot outside the games, and that's the tech tree. So we would get a tech, and we'd be like, we'll take this tech. You shouldn't do that. You should carefully consider the text because it's a gigantic tech tree. And then when you have this gigantic tech tree, and you're like, you can build stuff. They're like, oh, so here's the things you can build. Any of these 200 different things.
Right.
And you're like, what do I do?
Which is so cool.
It is.
That's so cool.
But that almost lends itself more to solo play. Because in solo play, discussing technology is not as interesting as just thinking about it in your head. I don't know how to explain it.
Okay.
I mean, we could sit there and argue over it, but that would add hours to the game.
And it's already a lot. Yeah.
But I do think that's neat. That's why, to me, the exploration phase is way more interesting because I like the story. I like getting new techs. I like finding a new Titan or an upgrade to a Titan.
Oh, yeah.
And getting a new weapon. I'm like, I can't wait to use this weapon and fail against the next monster. That part I love.
There are moments like that when you do get that new Titan or whatever. You're like, oh yeah, ready to see him in battle, and just go at it. So there are those moments in there that are. But the bookkeeping, it's one of those things that, if you're committed that this is the game you're going to play, then I can see it being really exciting.
Mm-hmm.
Here's my biggest negative about the game, though, and it's the game itself, the size and stuff. It's a table hog, but not just is it a table hog. There are decks upon decks upon decks. My initial setup for this took such a long time because I had to find decks. Now they have since online printed a thing that says for your first game, do this, 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 and this. Thanks for printing that after I noted and I knew it existed. But I'm like, they say this card. Where is this card? And I'm looking through things, and I took the second and third chapter cards completely out and put them in a different box, so they were out, and I was still getting overwhelmed. But I muddled through it. I watched hours of tutorials on how to play the game. We went through the Learn to Play book, walked through that, and that was good. We played through it. 80-page rule book. Each chapter has another 6 or 7 pages of rules. And I got it. We looked in the rule book a million times. We played for 6 straight hours. We're like, oh. When we were done, it took me forever to put it away. I went and printed off charts and things that would make it easier for next time. We got together a few weeks later, and no one remembered anything, including me.
And we were still in the rule book just as much as that first play.
Now, I think if I played it every week, and it was set on my table, and I didn't have to tear it down, because I would not. This is going on the table and not getting torn down. I think after a while, I wouldn't have to look at the rulebook hardly at all. Well, you would, because they add new rules the whole campaign. That's fine. But
the keywords would become more natural. You'd kind of understand them. You'd see the implications of them.
this is not a casual game at all. This is your favorite game, or you're not playing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it almost makes me wonder if a lot of complexity is there for complexity's sake. If it could
I
have
don't
been
know
streamlined
about.
a bit.
Well, some of it is. There are some things though that I like. The wounding system, for example.
I do like
Yes, it's
it.
annoying. There's 4 decks. I don't know if there's something funny about, and I'm not going to mention some blatant cheating by 2 people in this room, with the 2
Roy?
opal cards where it says you die or you live. To the point where someone, they were actually, there was a moment where they were playing Russian roulette with those cards. You were like, to take this one, you're like, are you a traitor? I don't know. Like,
Yeah, that's like, yeah.
But I mean, that was also like the second turn of the battle.
I didn't
And
want
the
to die that
battle's-
quick.
Yeah, the battle's going to be about 45 minutes. You're 10 minutes into it, and it's like, nah, we're not doing this. I'm not sitting here and looking at your mug for 30 minutes.
I mean-
while
I do wish there were ways to make the game a little easier. Well, there is. I know of some.
We made it easier.
ways with John, well, we did.
yeah, I'm real good at suggestions.
There's a lot. This is an impressive feat, and the thing is, it works. It's just shy of me. Well, I shouldn't even just say it's shy of me. Like, I think it could have been a computer game.
Oh,
You
would've been
know,
great.
Oh,
right?
it does have that feeling
You
with
know,
the
'cause
tech tree and
There's so much involved, but this is impressive, and I guarantee you, and I know this because I've seen the ratings. It's already in the BGG top 1,000, and it's climbing rapidly. It's going to be one of the highest rated games ever. I know it is.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, there's going to be a lot of comparisons. Kingdom Death Monsters, same thing. Although, and there's a very side note here, I like this better than Kingdom Death Monster theme-wise because I like the Greeks a lot. This is less bloody. It doesn't mean it's not. It's still violent. There's still traumatic. It's still adult by, I mean, it's a mature story and stuff. But there's way less sex. There's way less of that nonsense that's in Kingdom Death, with one major exception.
Yeah.
And there's nymphs that you meet in this game, and whoever drew those nymphs just likes to draw naked people.
No, there's.
I thought that was disappointing because the rest of the game I thought was amazing looking.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, no, I think they handled it very well in them being big and beefy, and the Titans are under your control, and they look like that, if you will. You know, I mean, they're dressed in rags and things like that, but it doesn't have a sexual nature to it until you get to the nymphs.
Yeah, that's kind of a weird sideways step there. And I think part of it is they have a separate campaign where they sell these nymphs and like miniatures of them and everything. So they were shoving them in this game.
Oh, interesting.
sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's just keep that in mind. They're not family friendly at all, but they're also like in our game we haven't run into them.
Right, we
I
haven't.
just looked ahead at a lot of different things. So I want to see as much of this game as I could before we did this review.
Yeah.
So where do you end up on this?
I'm sorry. I like inhaled. As one does. I'm going to come down at a 7 on this. And this was a really, really hard one for me to rate because I went from everything from like a 5 to a 9 on this personally.
Right.
Like it was a huge journey, you know, coming into it and that excitement of building and that first play just it kind of like, oh my gosh, it was so draining that first one. Being in that rule book, probably 50% of the play that first time. And then coming back for the second one, be like, you know what? No, I'm going to give it another shot. I'm really excited about this. Oh my gosh, I love this theme. Like in between every play, I got so excited about it again. And so I feel like it was hard because in it, there's definitely those times where it just feels grindy and like you're just trying to learn the rules. But to be fair, I haven't played it couple times in a row. You know, if I had a group that I could get together with every Thursday and this is what we played, or every Friday, you know, whatever day, we get and we play it and we know the rules and we're in it. I love the story. I love what it's doing, but sometimes I feel like the game gets it in its own way. And so I think it's just going to be more on your play group and what you can accomplish, you know, with that regular play. But the story is there for me. I did enjoy the combat. I have some frustrations with it. I do not like falling off the edge. I think that was just too limiting. I don't like the player elimination in it, which you're not out for the whole campaign. But again, second round of combat, you can be out and then you're sitting there for 45 minutes.
Right.
You know? I think the story can get a little wordy at times, but at the same time, counter to that, I really like the immersion of it. You know, so there's a lot of ping pong for me in this. So ultimately it comes down to one that I would recommend it, but it's going to have a lot of caveats with it. It's one of those like, hey, I really think you're going to like this game. Let me tell you about it. Also, know all these things. you're going to need to know these things. So it's one of those I would recommend, but it's going to come with a lot of caveats, for lack of a better word. So I'm going to come in at a 7.
All right, so I was the same way. I'm low to high, 5 to 9, and really where there. But the big thing that got me for this is the fact that I do like the story a lot, and that's what got me. I like the idea of the story because it's different. I mean, the fact that you're walking around and you have control, you can go back and control these Titans and really help any area. The idea of it was great. The execution is what I had a problem with, and I'm coming in at a 6.5. Mainly, it's a little bit lower than Camilla, and I think only because I wanted to come higher, but when would I choose this over other options? And I know if I get 100 hours in, things would change. We'd have that more exciting. But would I put that 100 hours into this, or would I put that time into something else that I enjoy more, like Oathsworn, that seems to be a great story, but more condensed, quicker, it flows faster. That's where I come in. I love the idea of this, and for people that immerse themselves in a story, and this is a lifestyle game, because if you get this, you're looking forward to just playing this every week after week, planning an event around this. In that situation, I think it'll thrive.
This game is driving me crazy because I thought about this so much outside the game.
Yes.
I was just thinking about it, like, oh. And so there's only good from that in a sense. I'm coming in at an 8. I think this could be a 10 for me.
Yes, it could have.
If I played it through. I am struggling. I've been thinking about this for weeks now. Am I going to play it through? I don't know. I haven't decided yet. I think about taking it home and making this a game I play every week by myself. Although running the bookkeeping part, that's great. Do that by myself, easy. The running the Titans part, that's going to be harder. Running 4 different Titans, I think, is not super easy. But man, there's so much about this I like. The rules it feels like there's just too many. The combat's a little luckier than I would like. For as much as the rest of the game is, I get it, when you do a critical hit, the high is a high.
Right.
But that critical hit happens 1 out of 10 times. Missing happens a whole lot more. So it's not like I hit 50% of the time. I feel like I'm hitting less than 50% of the time. But, man, it's cool. It's grandiose. And I think you can buy this game, and it's expensive if you want to buy it now. You didn't back on the Kickstarter. I think they're going to run another Kickstarter. It's going to be expensive, that Kickstarter. But if you buy this, you don't have to buy another game for well over a year.
Oh, definitely no other campaign game. And you could say that even if they just get the one story or the one song or whatever it's called.
Yeah, so I applaud them.
Game and just one.
We're comparing it to. I'd play this over Kingdom Death Monster. Oathsworn, the other game it's going to be compared to a lot. That's tougher because Oathsworn's a much shorter game. And Oathsworn's a much tighter, compact game. Also has a lot going on in it. I give the nod to Oathsworn, honestly. But story-wise, I'm so interested in this story.
Yeah, it's such a cool world.
It's a unique story, too, which I like.
It is. I really like it. It's definitely like Matrix meets Greek mythology, some Seventh Continent vibes. Like, so many it's going to be compared to.
A lot of Seventh Continent vibes when you get that map out. Yeah.
Well, there you go, folks. That's Aeon Trespass Odyssey. The biggest game we'll ever review, probably. Huge.
Yeah.
Until next time, I'm Tom Vassell.
I'm Camilla Cleghorn.
I'm Joey Evans.
And we're done.
We're gonna hop in some Titans.